So, good morning, everyone. We have some time today to do some study and practice together. I want to have quite a lot of time for practice. The basic theme today is solitude and how to make use of it. Because we find ourselves in this enforced isolation, and this has many advantages for spiritual practice and many disadvantages for the ego. So hopefully we are more concerned with our spiritual life. So maybe we begin just with a little quiet sitting. Sit in a comfortable way, always with the spine supporting your weight. And just being present, you can track your breath, or you can just sit in an open way. The key thing is to gradually release yourself from interest in and involvement with whatever thoughts, feelings, colors, smells, tastes are arriving. We're just quietly here, no need to get involved. Okay, so the basic view we'll look at in detail later is, of course, Dzogchen, but at first it's perhaps useful to look at the basic four thoughts which turn the mind from samsara, which we find used in all the Buddhist traditions. The first is when we reflect on having a precious human birth. We have a reasonably healthy body. We're able to study and learn. We have enough leisure time to do practice. And we're born at a time that Buddha has taught the Dharma. That Dharma is still transmitted, and that Dharma is made available to us. So from the outside, we have the possibility of learning about how to open ourselves more, how to become more available through wisdom and compassion. And on our side, we have the potential of a body which is alive and which has a bit of time available to us. Each day we have some hours when we are awake. And when we reflect on a precious human body, we reflect on how do we use our time. Many people now are in isolation. They're watching a lot of TV, big box sets of Netflix series and so on. They're talking with their friends on their mobile phones, sending messages here, there, and everywhere, reading lots of novels. They're passing their time. This often feels like an imposition. People want to go outside, the weather is better, I want to go to the beach, I want to have a barbecue, but this is forbidden. So the normal ways in which people affirm their identity by doing their usual activities, by doing this, I confirm to me that I am me, there is a block on that. And so people seem to spend, certainly in London, a lot of time going round and round doing the same activity. But a precious human birth means now your life truly has meaning. You have a path in front of you. You have the possibility of understanding something new, of opening new doors, of becoming more available to yourself and to other people. So this is a really important thing to reflect on. How do I use my time? The time that we waste today will be gone. It will never come back. When we talk of wasting time, it doesn't mean that you have to be sitting and doing formal Dharma practice or reciting mantras. You can be looking out the window, watching the birds, but you can do that with awareness or without awareness. The key point is always awareness, which is the basic clarity of the mind, which is not under the control of the ego. Hopefully this will become clearer to you as we proceed. The deeper your Dharma practice, everything everything becomes Dharma. If we only have a very shallow Dharma practice, then it becomes the formalized rituals that we repeat. And then we have a difference between Dharma and non-Dharma. The second aspect is to reflect on impermanence and death. Well, clearly, this is very pressing for us. The lives that we had before this virus arrived seem to have faded away now. It's almost a mythical time when we could get up and continue our daily life. People are cut off from family, friends, places of work, means of earning money. There's anxiety. If you run a cafe, maybe you'll never manage to open it again. There's a lot of anxiety developed through impermanence. What seemed to be the case, what seemed to be reliable, is gone. And of course, when people get the virus, they don't know the trajectory of it. They don't know if they'll recover or not. Death is always close to us. Our body is full of these vital organs, the movement of blood and air. We are a dynamic system interacting with the world. There is no wall around us keeping us safe. We have to breathe in, and it's possible that we breathe in some air with a virus in it. If we stop breathing, we're dead. If we keep breathing, we're vulnerable. This is the situation in a human body in samsara. So we have some time. How shall we use it? How will we be kind to ourselves? So reflecting on impermanence is not a way of scaring yourself. It's a way of reminding yourself that each moment is precious. It's like there's a big road in front of you, a Dharma road. But every half kilometer, there's a sign saying holiday time or rest a little bit or daydream time. And you can go off on these side roads and pass half an hour, and then you try to get back on the main road again. But when distraction has become a way of life, and because of impermanence, new distractions are always arising. There's always some new thing to be fascinated by. Many people are now preoccupied by conspiracy theories. Where has this virus come from? Some dark machinations lie behind it. You can think about these things endlessly. You can go on the internet. There's more and more people's mental fabrications about causes and possibilities of the virus. If you're a meditator, you think thinking about the virus is a waste of time. I'm thinking about something that I hear, somebody says something, and what I'm doing is I'm feeding the turning wheel of thought, a wheel which turns towards samsara. This is the vehicle by which I move around in different situations. So this is not helpful. Impermanence means stay fresh. To be alive here and now means what I hear, what I see, what I taste in my mouth, the pressure of my body on my seat. There is sensation coming through all the five senses. Thoughts and feelings are arising now. So instead of going off on journeys, carried away by speculation, by imagination, we always try to return to what is here, what is simple, what is actual. That's where the freshness lies. That's where the possibility of profound change arises. Chasing thoughts it looks open, looks like a marvelous door, but actually you get wrapped in more thoughts, more feelings, and there's no end to thinking and feeling. So it's important to reflect for yourself on this. How are you spending your time? Essentially, in the great question of Sialama, how do you cheat yourself? There are things you decide to do, but then you don't do them. Why don't you do them? Who's stopping you? Another thought, another tendency. So you can feel split inside between your, as it were, good self that really wants to do some practice and your lazy self or bad self that avoids it and does other things. This way of thinking is not so useful. All of this is you. You need to welcome all the aspects of yourself and see what is a tendency of avoidance? What are the objects that seem to provoke distraction from Dharma? We should always turn towards the difficulty, learn from the difficulty. Nothing is gained by hiding from difficulties. All of us have limitations of the amount of focused attention we can give, limitations of the stability of our body, limitations through the health of our body. We have to work with our limitation. So the closer we can be to our embodied existence, without comparing and contrasting with anyone else, we just say, oh, this is my situation. And this situation arises from the third factor, which is karma. Karma is our activity. Activity generates patterns. Our body changes its postures, gestures as we engage with different activities. The mobilization for these activities arises from desire to have things that please us and aversion to things that displease us. So we are constantly making choices. The room feels hot, we open the window. Now it feels cold, we close the window. Always trying to adjust the outer factors of the world to maintain our situation. So karma is a kind of conversation between subject and object, between self and environment, in which self acts on environment, environment acts on self, and each movement creates new patterning, new tendencies, new hopes, new fears. And so we find ourselves in situations and we're not sure why. When I look back at my own life, I'm always very surprised how I ended up like this. I'm living in London. I never thought I would live in London. It was never my desire to live in London, but I've been here a long time. Somehow it just happened. Of course, that's not true. I made small decision and small decision and small decision, and that fed into a pattern whereby I needed to study, and then I needed to get a job, and then I had family responsibilities and so on. And each of these micro decisions put my life in a particular pattern, a particular trajectory. So you can reflect on that for yourself. How have I come to be the person I am now? Certain little streamlets, certain little tendencies like puffs of wind blow into our lives and we turn this way and that. We're at the mercy of these tendencies unless we turn and recognize them. If we look at the face of a tendency, we can say yes or no, whether it's eating too much or drinking too much or gossiping too much. When you realize, oh, this is maybe too much, it's not helping me, then we can stop. We can do something different. So karma means from not understanding who we are, we take ourselves to be our ego self in our particular embodied situation, in our culture, with our language and so on. And we formulate plans. We have an intention. We enact our intention. We have a consequence to that intention. And when we align with it, that becomes another affirmation that this is who I am. And we stay inside that for a while. But because it's a construct, because it's a gathering together of different factors, eventually it starts to fall apart. So it's always helpful. Reflect on your life. Reflect on how your time is structured, what you devote your attention to. Is it truly meaningful? It means something to you. It's personally meaningful as the person who you take yourself to be. But if we remember the second reflection, impermanence and death, we're going to die. This body, this encultured, socialized formation is a movement of many factors. At a certain point, the 5 elements start to separate, they don't collaborate so well, and the life energy can no longer hold them in its patterns, and we start to move into death. So what seems important in this life may not have any deep or profound or infinite significance. It's just the patterns of socialization and the factors that were around in the culture when we are young that we've continued with. So again and again, we have to think, oh, who am I? What is the basis out of which I make this choice or that choice? Our aim is always to leave the surface waves, the turbulence of the interaction of subject and object, and go deeper into awareness, which reveals a broader picture. Awareness itself is neutral. In the example that many of you know, it's like a mirror. It just shows what's there. But our ego self is not neutral. We are biased. We have our tendencies, our habits, and that takes us towards developing a particular experience of the world. So this is the meaning of karma, is to see how we can be pulled into finite shapings which will not last, but which from the inside, through our attachment and commitment, appear to be of profound eternal significance. That's how we cheat ourselves. And the fourth reflection is on the six realms. That at this moment, according to the tradition, we think we are human beings. This is what we experience. We confirm to each other, oh, you're a human being. You're a male being or a female being. You're not a dog, you're not a cat, you're not a bird. We look at the birds, we think, oh, I can't fly. We look at the cat, we think, oh, I better not jump out of a tree. We see other beings able to do things that we can't do, and we do things that they don't do. So it is as if cats and birds and human beings are three completely different kinds of beings. What unites them is that they are sentient. They are able to feel and to think. They are alive. So with all living forms which have mind, although the outer form, the shape, seems very different, basically they are having their experiences because they have a mind. The mind is the commonality. That's why when we die, we can go into these different realms, because these are mind experiences. All you have ever had in your life is an experience. Maybe you had kind parents, maybe not so kind parents, good teachers, bad school. That was your experience. You experience it. You're sitting in the classroom next to someone. They have a different experience of the teacher from you. If you have siblings, brothers and sisters, they probably experience your parents in a different way. There is no fixed object. The object arises in relation to our subjectivity, our interpretation. So we can be reborn in different ways. You see, when you look outside and you see the small birds jumping around in the trees, flying, trying to find something, oh, that makes sense to them, clearly. They are able to do things we could not do. We are able to do things they can't do. This body will die. Their bodies will die. Each of these is like a dream-like formation. The essence of ourselves is empty awareness. Everything else is contingent. That is to say, it arises from causes and circumstances. It lasts for a while, and then it vanishes. There is no essence of James. There is no essence of me as a man, or being Scottish, or anything. These are just factors dynamically operating for a while. So we can be born up in the highest heavens, down in the lowest hells. There are many places to be born with different kinds of experience. At this moment, we have a human body, which for Dharma practice is the best situation. It's the best situation because we have the opportunity to have some good experiences and some bad experiences, and we can reflect on them. And we also have some capacity for choice making. So we can turn our mind towards some deeper exploration, or we can fritter our life away in the outer movement of events. This is our choice. This is our freedom. So thinking about the six realms is very important. when human beings disregard animals of various kinds and treat them badly, this is paralleled with their disregard for the natural world, for the climate, and so we provoke the environment around us. If you see the world as dead, if you see other living creatures as meaningless, you can act on them. You turn them into a mere object. You lose your sense of intersubjectivity. But from the Buddhist point of view, we, in our individuality, in our aliveness, we share the world with other living beings, and we need to collaborate with them to share the space. We want to have fish in the river. If you pollute the river, you don't have any fish. Then it's tragic. You have this smelly, swampy, dark flow through your city. When the factories stop dumping all their crap, then the river gets clean, then the fish come back. When the fish are there, then different animals and insects come, and you have a whole new ecosystem, which is beautiful and lively and sustaining of forms of life. So the key point at our time, when we see international interdependence of the economic field, people traveling across the different continents, if we are truly linked on an external material level, maybe we have to think about what it means to be interconnected on a living biological level, rather than being a separate monad, an individual that goes from here to there. We are always traveling with other people, on the bus, on the underground, on the train, in the plane. We're moving with others, walking on the street. We're sharing the environment. We are with others. So maintaining these kind of reflections is always about opening your attention out into the world. How does it function? What are my assumptions? And are my assumptions in the service of wisdom and compassion, or are they in the service of ego comforting delusion? So normally we begin our practice by thinking about refuge. We can take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. But we also have a particular opportunity at this moment, because in isolation, you're cut off from many of the people and activities and commodities that you might normally make use of. So I would suggest we take a little quiet time to sit and reflect. Through this experience of social isolation, have I learned anything about what I actually take refuge in? It's all very well to say I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, but maybe I take refuge in the park, in my favorite trees, in watching the flowers in the forest, in chatting with a neighbor, in visiting my friend, in going to a bar. What do you miss at this moment? What are the factors of attachment in your life? Because these factors of attachment pull us in to identification. I need this in order to be me. By repeating that activity, I confirm to myself that I am still me. So this is a wonderful opportunity for us to think, in being cut off from these familiar factors, do I continue to be me? Your mood might change, your thoughts, feelings, hopes, and fears. Different vehicles are arising in the mind, but there is some continuity to you. What is that? What is your mind? Because in Dzogchen, the ultimate object of refuge, not really object, but the ultimate place of refuge is your mind itself. We take refuge in the unborn mind, in awareness which is inseparable from emptiness. So let's just sit quietly and reflect for a while on what we take refuge in, and how refuge in ordinary worldly people and events distracts us from taking refuge in both the outer symbolic forms of refuge and in awareness itself. Okay. Our ego self, although it would like to be autonomous and independent, is very, very far from being that. We actually live in dialogue. We live in dialogue with internal factors, so that when we are hungry, we want to eat. When we feel thirsty, we want to drink, and so on. And external factors, we're affected by the time of day, the climate, the way other people behave towards us. We are constantly in formation with what is information around us, forming and forming and forming the ever-shifting patterns of the object world and the ever-shifting patterns of our embodied world have an interface, and we become like this and like this and like this. This goes on and on and on. There is no way to avoid this. It's not a mistake or a problem, but it's how we are. So when I say I, seems to be referring to some precise thing in me. But as many of us have reflected many, many times, when we look for this I, we can't find it. So it's a kind of screen or a mask behind which the ever-changing dynamic formation of our lived experience moment by moment is moving, but the mask seems to somehow stay in place. I am influenced by others. They get to me, they touch me, they move me. This is the possibility of connectivity, of compassion, of kindness, of empathic attunement with others. But it's also, of course, the potential for vulnerability, for being hurt, for feeling exploited, being unloved, rejected, abused, not seen. Many, many painful experiences arise because we would like a particular bandwidth of connectivity between ourselves and the world. We would like to have a kind of attunement with situations and events and people which confirm our value. But that is often missing. So when we take refuge in the Buddha, we're saying, I need you. We also need maybe coffee and bread. We need many things, but the transient formation of temporal phenomena vanishes. They're just always evanescent. They're like morning mist vanishing in the sunshine. When we take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we believe that there is something reliable and enduring. This is the outer formation. The inner formation is our mind. And as we know, our mind has these two aspects. It has the content, which is our experience, what is arising, both seemingly outside the body and inside the body. This is the flow of experience. And we think, oh, I think it's a beautiful day. That seems to be my mind. My mind tells me it's a beautiful day. Actually, the perception through the eyes feeds into mental consciousness, which formulates an understanding. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day for me because I'm a human being in a temperate climate, and I'm happy that now it's over 20 degrees in London. So the notion of beautiful day is dependent on how I'm located. When we take refuge in something more abstract, we have the continuity of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, which is not contingent in that way. But even so, I take refuge in the Buddha. This takes, 3 seconds to say. I take refuge in the Dharma. 3 seconds. It's gone. It's always vanishing. Whatever you do in Dharma, which is performative, it's simply part of the flow of emergent and dissolving experience. This is why, from the point of view of Dzogchen, the formal practices of Buddhism are not so important, because they are in the liquid flow of experience. They don't create something you can really hang on to, because you say, I take refuge in the Buddha. Even you do 100,000 prostrations reciting this, afterwards you start thinking about something else. It was a period in your life when you were able to do a lot of Dharma practice intensively, and after a couple of years, that was the past. Now you're here with, now I have some kids, I have to earn money, I have to do this, I have to do that. You have a new formation of your life. So the refuge that you had becomes less available, and your life energy gets pulled towards engagement with other things. So learning what is experience is very important. This moment is vanishing. This moment is vanishing. Always going, always vanishing, going away, unavailable. What will I rely on? How do you know this moment is vanishing? I feel it. How do you feel it? Something registers. What is this modality of registering? We have two aspects here. One is cognitive, that is to say, I'm aware that early in the morning I had a cup of tea, I don't have a cup of tea now. So that's a thought. I have a thought about a thought. The thought that I'm thinking about, we can also describe as a memory. There's a memory with some taste in my mouth. I had a cup of tea. And now I'm thinking about that experience, which is gone. But by thinking about it, it's as if I pull it here into the here and now a bit. But both are vanishing. The flow of experience is unreliable. Like the reflection in the mirror, it's changing according to circumstances, whereas the mirror itself doesn't change. The true refuge is to relax into the mirror-like quality of awareness, which is always there. This doesn't change, but it shows change. So the mirror is this very important symbol in Dzogchen, because it's the place where stillness and movement collaborate. You have to look at the mirror in the wall and you wave at it as your hand is going from one side to the other. The reflection's moving. The mirror doesn't move. The mirror doesn't fall off the wall. The mirror's there. Everything is moving as reflection, and the mirror stays. This is like our mind. But we, in our egoic merging into the structures of conceptual identity, I am James, born in Scotland, I like this, I do that. Once we're in this kind of packaging, which is a deceptive, delusional packaging, because it's based on the false assumption that there is a continuing Jamesness to James, some essential Jamesness. When we do that, then we look to the environment for things to reassure us about who we are, to confirm our patterns, to avoid the difficulties that we don't want to be encountering. This is a lot of work. On and on and on, adjusting, shaping, improving is a lot of work. And it doesn't end. You cannot arrive at a safe place inside the stream of concepts, sensations, feelings, memories, plans. They move. So it's vital to be clear that stillness and movement are not the same, and yet they are not separate. They are non-dual. The mirror doesn't stand apart from the reflections in it. The reflections are in the mirror, but the reflections move and the mirror doesn't. So this is the profound understanding of the Mahayana, that form is empty. You can't find anything truly in the form of a cup or a human body or a dog. You look inside, you find all these different aspects collaborating together. And they themselves have no individual essence. And yet there is a form. The form is the showing of emptiness. For us as meditators, we see that every moment of our life, whether we're sleepy or energized, whether we are in pain or relaxed, whether we feel lonely or we feel loved, however it is, this is dynamic. It's arising and passing. Who is it happening to? So from our ego position, it's happening to me. This seems so obvious, so straightforward. This is why refuge is very important, because on an outer level, if I am trapped in reactivity, in this surface turbulence, in which something's always happening, it's like getting cream and putting it in a bowl and whipping it round with a little metal whisk to put air into the cream, and it becomes lighter, and you can use it on the top of a cake. You're putting air. The air is increasing the volume. There's nothing, you haven't added anything substantial at all. We put our life energy, we put our belief, our hope, our trust into mental formations, and it is as if they are real, true, reliable. So meditators require the courage to look and to see. And we always come to the crossroads. There are two roads. One is, I can believe the stories I tell myself, which are stories other people have told me about who I am and how I am and what I'm like and what I like and so on, endless numbers of stories. Or I can see, oh, this story that I'm telling myself is passing through. What is it passing through? What is the illuminator or the illuminating factor that allows the revelation of the story that I tell myself? Oh, this is awareness. Awareness is like a clear light. Just, it doesn't bring any coloration onto anything. If you're in the theater, you have spotlights, with a red beam and a green and so on that can be mixed and put on to illuminate aspects of the stage. But we don't want to have any coloration. The coloration is in the movement. It is something which is done to the clear light of illumination. When the clear light of awareness is mediated through our assumptions, our beliefs, our habit formations, it takes on a precise coloration, red or green, whatever, intense, not intense. And as we know, when light falls on a surface, some of the bandwidth, that's the potential of clear light, is absorbed and some's rejected, and that's how we get colors. The formations of the world are just like that for us. The light of our illuminating awareness gets pulled into some factors and rejected from others. So you go shopping and you see apples, pears, and bananas. For some reason, you buy pears. Today, they are shining for you, and the others, they're not shining for you. So the light of the mind is either rejected or absorbed by the phenomena around us. And this is what gives the particular valency, the particular charge, the particular kind of value and importance of phenomena moment by moment for us. This is us. This value has not been established from the outside. It doesn't lie in the object. It lies in how the mind is either clear, just showing, or mediated, and in that way veiling in the very process of this adapted illumination, this contrived illumination. So it's either direct or indirect. And when we look in the Dzogchen text, they're always saying this is a direct path. It's unbounded, unmediated, uninterrupted. Whereas in our ego self, we think about things. We try to make sense of things. We run the facts through ourselves, and they take on the coloration of our habits, our desires, the events of our childhood, the karmic dispositions from previous lives, and so on. Mediated experience means that we participate as part of the flow of experience while imagining that we are separate from the experience. This is happening to me. I'm here, and this event is coming towards me and touching me, and I don't like it. But this me is part of the flow of experience because I experience myself in different ways, in different circumstances. I believe I am a fixed reference point. I have always been me. Since I was a little child, I've just been me, and I go through the years, I can tell you about my life, me. I have always been me. But this me has always been in dialogue, in co-emergence, in dependent origination with the factors around it. This me is a lie, it's a deceit, it's a fraud, it's an illusion. Not totally, it's not that it doesn't exist at all, but it doesn't exist as what it says it is. It is the interpretation of the self which makes the self a problem. To be a self is could be simply describing a body shape which is moving in an environment. My body is not separate from the environment I'm in. I'm always someplace. I don't exist apart from the world, not for 1 second. I am an aspect of the world. But when I start from the assumption, no, but I'm me, and I don't like that, and I don't want that, but I do want that, this accepting and rejecting confirms the seeming autonomy of this particular position. This is ignorance as we live it day by day, moment by moment. And when you're caught up in this interactive flow all the time, so much going on, all of which could be quite important because of winning and losing. We have these 8 world concerns, gain and loss, winning and losing, fame, good reputation, other people not liking us, in being included socially, being excluded. These are very important for the ego because the ego is dialogue. The ego is not autonomous. We may, on a bad day, get into a monologue, a depressive monologue or an anxious monologue. We don't really want other people to interrupt us. But essentially, even such a neurotic monologue is dialogic because there is a speaker and a listener, even if it's internal to the person. I am talking about me. I am telling you about my experience. The ego is part of the world. It is part of the play of the world. It doesn't exist apart from the world, and yet it would like to. And we'll come back to look at the nature of ignorance a bit later. So refuge is so very, very important. Not only are you maybe dependent on smoking cigarettes or drinking some wine or kissing a particular person, because if you don't do these things, you don't feel like you. But we're more profoundly, we're addicted to our thoughts. We're addicted to our memories. We believe in them. We believe that our memories tell us the truth about who we are. In the field of psychotherapy, this is absolutely continuous. People come and they tell you what happened in this week or last year or when they were children or with their previous partner. It's always stories about something. It's concepts about concepts. And the reason we do this is because the ego talks itself into existence as a quasi, as a pseudo-autonomous entity, but it doesn't exist by itself. This is how illusion moves into delusion. It is an illusion to think that we are separate. And when we strongly believe that we are separate and independent, we are then deluded and we misinterpret what's going on. So taking refuge is also deep in terms of our meditation practice, which we'll go into a bit later today. When thoughts and feelings are arising and we get caught up in them, this is the ego striving to maintain its identity through fusion with what is arising. I become me through being able to think about myself or being able to think about that. Thinking is the fuel for the maintenance of the delusion of the true deep isolation or separation of the ego self. So in meditation, we're trying to just keep an eye on this. Hey, what's going on here? How come I'm so busy following this idea and that idea? Man, these ideas are crazy. What the fuck? What am I doing? Oh, I'm making me. It doesn't matter what the thought really is. I just need it to be me, because without that situation, it's difficult. If you're a kid and you've got a ball, you want to bounce it. You bounce it on the ground, you bounce it on the wall. You need to keep the ball moving. Otherwise, it's really boring. You can hold the ball in your hand, and drop up and down. Oh, God, this is terrible. But now you have a wall. Now you can run around and catch the ball. It's much more exciting. So this is what we're doing with our thoughts. We're maintaining the different modalities of our interaction. And along with the refuge, we develop bodhicitta, or develop an altruistic attitude and openness to the potential for enlightenment in all beings. So the birds, the fish, beings in different realms, they have a potential for awakening because they have a mind. It doesn't matter if they're a bird, that being a bird doesn't stop them having the potential for awakening. Being a bird reduces the possibility of them understanding that they have, behind their excitement at seeing a worm or the fear at seeing a hawk, behind that there is an awareness which is illuminating their experience. It's very difficult for birds to see that, or for cows in the field, or for horses. We can see that just with the animals that we see. If you go out in the fields and you see the little baby calves, and they look at you with their big eyes, and they come up and they want something, and you say, "Sweetheart, what can I do for you?" The cow, the little calf, wants comfort, and mum's taken away. Now mum's just being milked every day, and little babies outside, and the little bullocks, they run around in the field. They're looking for something, but they can't conceptualize it. They have a potential. This is a potential to awaken, but the circumstances around it are very restrictive. So when we develop bodhicitta, we see this sadness arising in ourselves. All these beings who have minds, who could awaken to how the mind is, and then from that to see that everything is the radiance of the mind, they are trapped in the dullness of being constricted in the limitations of the patterning of their embodiment. And so that's their world, a very small world. It's not a mandala. Tibetan word for mandala, one of them is shaoyekang, which means like an infinite house, a vast arena. We as human beings, we can do that more. We walk around, we see the hills, the rivers, the valleys. We're not in a field with an electric wire around it like the little cows. We have freedom to move. We can have access to so much. The big question there is, well, who is the one who is experiencing this big much? The mind the content of the mind can be very small and very tight. It is still illuminated by awareness. The content of the mind can be broad and rich and deep. You can know a lot about Western culture, art, opera, and so on. Rich cultural, literary life is illuminated by awareness. Whether you're a cow or an intellectual, you can still be lost because you're moving within the parameter that the content of the mind is the mind. This is the primary delusion. So when we say, may all beings have happiness and the root of happiness, and then we think, I will work for the happiness of all beings. I want to enter enlightenment with all sentient beings or lead them into liberation, because these beings have the potential for relaxation, for openness and freedom. They can awaken. That's the meaning of Buddha, buddhi, to awaken, to pop out of this dream, of this delusion. In Tibetan, they translate it as sangye. Sang means to clean, and gye means to increase. You clear away the limitations, and simultaneously you have the release of all the qualities which are the potential of the ground of your being. Your ego is small, but your awareness has a vast potential. So that's our bodhicitta, is to, when we look at beings, to see them in relation to the ground. The source of all beings is awareness, is the mind. That's where they come from. They are the showing of the potential of the mind. This is our infinite vision. If we close that infinite vision down and we make the point of interpretation reference to me, then we look at people in terms of, I like you, I don't like you. I want to eat you or I don't want to eat you. We have all kinds of self-referential interpretations whereby we allocate value to sentient beings in terms of where we stand with them and they stand with us. So this is something really worth reflecting on. Just take a little minute now, we'll sit quietly. Think about the people you know. Think about if maybe you have a pet, a dog or a cat, or the neighbors or people you work with and so on. These are potential Buddhas. These are beings with Buddha nature. But when you think of your boss at work, do you think potential Buddha or do you think bastard? So this is what you have to think. What is the basis of how you reveal the potential of the situation to yourself? What do you bring? What coloration do you bring to your interpretation of the value of beings? If all beings have Buddha nature, and Buddha nature is the most profound truth every being, maybe we have to think, how come I don't have any sense of that? I just have a sense of, I don't like this person. This person's not nice. Or this person is amazing. They're so special. Huh? So my prejudice screens from me the infinite open potential of all sentient beings. So that's the basis for awakening in bodhicitta. Let's just sit with that for a little. Okay. So if you have a cat, You have to know that not everybody likes cats. How is this possible? You like cats. You think cats are wonderful. You could spend a lot of hours every day just being with your cat. But some people don't like cats. The value of the cat is in your mind. It's not in the cat. It's not in the object. When we start to see this, then we see the people I don't like because I don't like. This is my mental formation, my attitude imbued with my emotional reaction. The people I do like and value, that's my construct. I value them because they have qualities that I like. So I say this person is more interesting or better or more charming than that person. This is my mental experience. I am the one who is creating the barrier between me and the world. I am mediating everything I encounter through my assumptions, my likes and dislikes. So if we want to have real bodhicitta, we have to start seeing people clearly. How are they? What do we see? We see movement. What is that movement? Shape and color. People are light. People are sound, which is always dissolving. They are gestures, which are always changing. I dull the world. If my dullness goes down, all beings have Buddha nature, and indeed all beings are part of the Buddha mind, and indeed all beings are Buddha. I also am Buddha. What hides my Buddha nature from me is me. What hides your Buddha nature from me is me. Is this complex, this collection of attitudes, judgments, beliefs, which I cling to as so valid, so important, because they make me feel like me. I blind myself. I screen myself. I veil myself. Now, on one level, this is pretty shitty. This is pretty horrible. On the other hand, if I'm doing it, it's in the palm of my hand. It's in the palm of my hand. It's not, I'm not at the mercy of what other people are like and what they do and how they behave. They are interpreted by me. I need to look at my mind, because the interpretations through which I say wonderful person, horrible person, this is experience arising and passing in my mind. This is reflections in the mirror. As long as I'm so mesmerized, I'm so caught up and intrigued and merged into these reflections, I have no space to relax into the mirror itself. So here we see wisdom and compassion are born together. If we awaken to the mind itself as it is, we then release our fixation on, dependence on, identification with all these transient patterns of feelings and memories. And then we also see everyone more clearly. We see them as they truly are. Of course, they don't even see them as they truly are. It's not like, oh, I've been projecting onto this person because they seemed like my mom, and now I recognize this through therapy. I'm not going to do that, so I have a better relation with that person. I'm not talking on that level of dualistic interaction. I'm talking of the fact that my whole sense of how they are and who they are is my experience. And if I see that experience is empty of the capacity to establish truth, it's just a play of potential, and I release that and release it, then I start to have unmediated, direct presence with others, which is the basis of true compassion. So we're going to take a break now, but I would like to remind you that this Zoom system, which has been set up by Milton and Zhao, has also some meeting rooms available in it. And there's the possibility that you can use that, since we've got the system running. If there are people that you would like to meet and have some Dharma discussions and do Dharma practice with, you can avail yourself of that. So if you would like to do that, you need to make some contact with Milton and Zhao. So if we take a break now till 10 to 12, have half an hour break. I'm going to see you then.